Welcome to the XY Advisor Podcast, a global community of financial advisors sharing and learning with one another to drive the positive evolution of financial advice. To get involved, go to xyadvisor.com or simply download the XY Advisor app.
First Sentier Investors are a global asset management group managing $247.3 billion of assets as of the 30th September 2021. They have 17 independent teams operating across equities, fixed income, listed and direct infrastructure and multi-asset, led by principles of responsible investment and stewardship. They are home to FSSA Investment Managers, an Asian and global emerging markets equities investor. Stewart Investors, a pioneer in emerging market equities and sustainable investing, and Real Index Investments, a systematic equities manager.
Welcome back to the XY Advisor Podcast. I'm Fraser Jack, and today I'm joined by Siobhan McTiernan. I hope I got that right.
You did get that right. Nailed it.
Ah, fantastic. I did practice it, to be fair. Now, you are the relationship manager at Pivot Wealth with Ben Nash.
Yes, I am. Still am. So I would say that Ben and me, I think it was like, let's just take a little bit of a punt and see what happens. And this is what I need you to do. And it's working. It's still working.
Yeah.
So,
fantastic.
yeah, it is going really well.
Now, what does the relationship manager, I mean, we'll get into that probably in more detail a bit later, but generally, what does the relationship manager do at Pivot Wealth?
Oh, look, build relationships. No, in all seriousness, fundamentally, it was the intent of the role was really to remove Ben off of that, that initial process with prospects and when clients are inquiring and coming in, and really for as the business is growing, and we're in a position where we're fortunate the business is growing really rapidly, he can focus a little bit more on the business and on other aspects of the business and other opportunities. So the key part, it started off really as a bit of a foundational get in, having those initial conversations with prospects and converting those individuals or couples into clients. So that was I would describe that as like the immediate need. And then it slowly started to build out with me creating more opportunities that might be available within the business to build better relationships with our clients. And, I think as many of the listeners here would know, advice is a funny thing. You get in, you'll do a whole bunch of work, you'll have, your various check-ins, but the other side of the coin is the client who wants the feels, and they've paid a lot of money to an individual or a business, and how can we create more feels and empower them and give them a little bit more confidence when it comes to their money? So we're still on a journey as far as that and how that looks, but we're getting there.
Yeah, this is a really interesting story because a lot of the we'll get into a bit more of this, but a lot of the concept around an advisor is they are spending a lot of time, in that high technical zone. Then they're spending, advice delivery zone, and then they've got to spend some time in as you mentioned, it creating feels. So they're sort of mixing between those different things. So if you can do that, like what Ben's doing with you, then maybe advice is more scalable. So let's get into that. But tell us about, let's go back in time. Tell us about your journey. What were you doing before you were, because this is a fairly new thing to you, but what were you doing before you decided to get into financial advice? What was your journey?
My background is I started off really in marketing, and I kind of quickly ended up in roles that, yes, they were marketing roles, but a key part of them was they would probably be technically described as acquisition marketing, otherwise known as sales. So I was more like the softer sell, getting in there, creating awareness, driving people to that point of conversion, and then either someone else kind of injecting themselves into that process or hoping that they would convert as a result of all the work that me, my team, the wider team had been doing. So I had a broad background in education. So I worked at Casio Education, which is a really sexy product calculators. So I worked a lot with maths teachers all over Australia. Then I went on to the Australian Catholic University, worked for a university in student recruitment, which would fundamentally be the sales arm of their marketing team. And then after that, I just decided that I wanted to get a little bit more different experience. And I wanted an opportunity to take on more of a business management type role and running businesses or working really closely with founders. So I actually caught myself into a series of working with founder businesses. I took on a role as a producer with a couple of friends that started a creative agency called Cello. They're incredibly successful today. I then went on to work for a digital agency and managed the Australian arm of a business, again working directly with the founder. They're called Lighthouse 8, so leading their Australian business, looking after leading clients locally here in Australia. We had offices in Singapore and Norway and London as well. And so whilst it seems like really curious for me to end up in a financial services firm, I think for me it was really natural to work for a founder and working with Ben. And I really I think that I found that that's probably my sweet spot, is working with a founder. Like working alongside the person who's probably crazy enough to take all the risk and throw a heap of mud at the wall and see what sticks. And I kind of come in and go, I like this. I like what you've done here, and I think that I can help excel. And I found that that's probably personally my sweet spot for now anyway.
Yeah, well, who would have thought that all that history then led towards this position now, which in a way it does involve education in a lot of sense, because I think that there's a lot of time we spend educating our clients, working with business clients and founders and businesses, and you found your particular brand of crazy.
Exactly right. It's more like a second tier of crazy. Not crazy enough, but still a little bit crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's fantastic to have you along and to talk about how you then bring what you have had in your background into an advice business. Obviously, not coming in as an advisor or a practice, or through those traditional avenues that a lot of people come in as a paraplanner or client services or all these types of things. You've just sort of come in from the sideline going, well, this is pretty cool. I can live in this business and do this stuff. Tell us about what it was like coming into a business and not having that traditional background that everybody else walks in with.
I don't know if we spoke about this earlier, but I've actually been a client of Ben's for around 3.5 years. So I came into it as a client and understanding the client experience, understanding the impact of advice, the joy of advice, really, like what happens when you do take that leap, decide to get financial advice, go through the planning process, and I'm out the other side. And I was just a huge advocate of the work, and in particular, I like the way that Pivot Wealth position the business. I really liked the no agenda aspect. I do think that advice, and obviously, a few years ago, it was obviously there's been a lot of interesting firms out there, and I've got friends that have worked for those firms. So I loved what Pivot Wealth had to offer, and I was a huge advocate for it. So coming into it, not having the advice side of the business and talking to prospects, it was natural, and I probably found it really easy, and it probably helps in some respects. Like, I know a really big challenge, and Ben will say this, and randomly I ended up in my mother's group. There's another financial advisor, and she was asking me about it. She's like, it's really hard to have meetings with clients and almost like not give away the keys to the kingdom. And I physically cannot, I don't have that knowledge to give away the keys to any kingdom. I probably, you might end up in a shack house if you follow my advice. So it was, I could easily feed into how this process is going to make you feel, where this will, we don't know where you'll end up, but what I can say is you'll be feeling a little bit more confident, a little bit more sure of where you are than the position that you're in now. And take it from me, because I've been there and I've done that.
This is a really good way for you to say to somebody, I've been there, I've done that. I really like the way you say the impact and the joy of advice. We get so carried away with the value of advice in those terms, but I think understanding it as I went through this this is the way I felt about it. This is the way you can feel about it, well before you're having any conversation around what the actual advice or the value of that advice is going to be.
Oh, completely. And I always say this to the beginning, anyone I speak to, I was like, undoubtedly there's the financial benefits. Can I quantify that for you? No. Then there's undoubtedly the non-financial benefits. And I think you'll get out the other side, and it's a journey, and you'll love the financial benefits, no doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. But what you'll really come to appreciate, in my opinion, is the non-financial benefits out the other side, which suddenly has you, as the average individual, the average couple who you just don't want to have to think about it and know that everything's kind of taken under control. It's a key. Like, I think you can kind of look at you could speak to any therapist, you could speak to anyone. Finances it can be a source of stress if you can at the very least eliminate that in your life. And if that does involve going down the planning process, it's probably, I think that's the lens that I come at it from, is the just do this and just you don't have to worry, because right now, and that's the key thing, right, is when people come in and they speak to you, they've got a whole list of what they want to achieve, and at the end of the day, their frustration is probably not being able to achieve that, or not knowing how to get there, or not knowing if they can get there. What is that? That's, ultimately financial stress to some degree. You might not think, people often think of financial stress as like, I have no money, but it's just the fact that you have to think about it, or it's keeping you up at night. And that, it can come from having no money. It can come from having a lot and not knowing what to do, and not knowing if you're maximizing the potential that's available to you. So, it's interesting. I would say that my conversations with people are more, how's this going to make you feel, and what's that ultimately going to mean for you? What's it going to mean for your family? What's that going to mean for your future outcomes? Have a think about that. And, maybe we could at a high level speak about the financials, but I don't know that really matters.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can separate that at the very early on process and say, look, stress, anxiety, frustration, these are all emotions that people come in with, and I see those emotions change to confidence and all these types of things. And then worry about the financials. And then I guess that's the advisor's job to worry about the financial side of it. And you're just there to focus to make sure that they are noticing that they were feeling one way at the beginning, and then consciously noticing that they were feeling a different way after the process. Does that sum it up?
Absolutely. We now do check-ins. Like I come back in and I check in with every client after they've gone through the implementation process. And again, I'm not really, I don't know their SOA. Of course, they've communicated with me at the beginning what they were hoping to get out of the planning process. I don't really want to. I don't really want to know their personal financial details. I just want to get in. I want to get in over the other side. Let's have a chat about the process. How's that landed for you? How's that making you feel? And then how can we maximize this relationship? At the end of the day, you've committed to working with us. So I want to make sure that you know that you can lean on us if you think things are going to change, or if you think things are going to change. Have these discussions with us. Let us, again, it comes back to that, it being a stressor, reduce that element of stress out of your life and utilize us and maximize the relationship that you have with us. And we're flexible. We always want to help.
Of course. And I think wanting to help is one of the cores of every financial advisor I know. They want to help. That's what got them into this. What do you think that saves, say, a Ben or an advisor that it works in the office in time for you to do that, all that that emotional support work, and then that work after as well? What sort of a time factor does that save out of their life?
Oh my gosh! If I have to think about the year that's been, what I can say is, Ben, or even if an advisor was doing this, you physically. It's like 2.5. Like, I know for a fact some of the months that we've had, you're taking on the workload of a 1.5 person workload. Like, the sheer volume of conversations and meetings and discussions, and you have those conversations with people where it's pretty cut dry. It's like, yes, no, practicalities, but broadly speaking, it's a bit of more of an emotional, and there's something else that's under there. And if I had to, like, as in, what I can say is Ben physically would not have been able to have done the job. Like, as in just the time, the sheer volume of time. So it's freed up it's freed up a whole person of times plus job at his end.
And I'm also thinking that, if an advisor is really busy, then this could be the part of the process that, because it's a non-compliant part, or there's no regime, like it's the part that makes the client feel amazing, but it's the part that there's nobody sitting over the top like a compliance officer saying you have to make sure you do this. So it's probably the part that gets dropped first when an advisor hits capacity. Which
is a key thing that we discuss, and it's a key thing that I say to, and I have to admit it's a super rare situation where the client wants, or the prospect rather, wants to speak to an advisor. It's very rare. But if they do ask, it's because I don't know that they need to be involved in this conversation. I would rather that if you came on board as a client, they have all the capacity in the world to strategize and deliver really good outcomes for you. Them taking time out of their day to have this discussion or focus on business development isn't going to help any of our clients, any of our existing clients, and it's not going to help you as a client, because you know that your time's being sucked out with them, kind of talking about cadences and timings and what's going to happen next.
Yeah, incredible. And so when you mention business development, do you see yourself as a business development manager inside the business?
Yeah,
the role?
Absolutely. So without a doubt, there's definitely, it certainly, started off that way. I think it's slowly expanding into lots of different arms. And I suppose, again, that comes back to my experience and what I've done as far as like working with founders and leading businesses, where Ben can pull me into larger projects as well. But yeah, there's undoubtedly that business development, and then a key, there's that key aspect of me figuring out how we can, fundamentally becoming a business development role, and then as a business we can scale because we can put someone else in. There's a system, there's a process. It's just finding the right person to be able to take that on, and then we can continue to grow.
Yeah, brilliant. I only say it like that, not as a bad thing or a good thing. It's just that it's relatable obviously within our profession, because we know what BDMs are inside our profession, and we can understand the concept of, this actually works for these product providers. Why could it not work for a financial advice business?
Absolutely.
Just because nobody else has really done it before doesn't mean it can't work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now, tell us about what that means. So if I'm a new client coming in to Pivot, what does that mean for me? Like, are you my first point of contact? How does it work?
Yeah, so I would actually say, and we talk about this a lot as far as like, when you think about attribution, to that conversion point to a client, Ben and our team do a lot of work at the front end, creating a lot of resources and content, and we, ensure we just put the information out there so people can educate themselves. So we find that they generally are following us for a little while, and then they'll have, be presented with multiple opportunities to.
Can I just, sorry, before we get to the booking part, tell us a bit more about that content, because I know there's podcast and there's downloadable books, Ben's book, etc. Tell us about what that content structure is, and obviously there's been in the media as well, and there's bits and pieces, there's videos all over your website. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, that's an excellent question. There's so much that happens that I'm going to be honest, not even I can keep up at the best of times. But like right down to last week, Ben's like, "What are you doing? Can you come down and meet me down at the studio?" So I'm on the TV. But so it's good. There's obviously a lot of good stuff that's happening at our end. But key drivers for us would undoubtedly be we do various webinars with they're broadly promoted. We have a relationship with General Assembly. We also partner with a bunch of other businesses such as Self Wealth and Raise as well, to deliver content to the public and also their followers. We also do, now you put me on the spot, I'm going to have to think about all these things. Yes, we do a lot of media. Ben has his book, and then as a result, a lot of people end up on our mailing list. So we have a regular newsletter that goes out just weekly into their inboxes. That content is really what's happening in the world, weekly wrap up of the markets, and And then we have the podcast, of course, and, client interviews that we'll share, or just some general interest things that we'll share on there as well. And then we also write for news as well. So we get a lot of press that way. So people will stumble across us, and then we have social media efforts, and we do some work as well with SEO. So when people are searching for financial advisors, we're fortunate enough to pop up. So we find that, and I can almost attest to this to being even a part of my journey, we've got that also a heavy word of mouth, a referral through our existing client base as well. And I found out about Ben through a friend as well. That's how people will, broadly speaking, will stumble across us in the first instance. And then we'll find, again, broadly speaking, and we have these conversations. By the time I have a chat to them, they'll be like, oh, I've been looking at your website for about a year. I've turned up to a few events. I've listened to your podcast. I've seen that you've got a book. And now I'm in a position where I think that, I thought I should make a call. And so when they book in and have a call with us, they will have a chat with myself. And then on that call, I just want to hear a little bit more about them and understand primarily as well, understand if there's a fit there. We're really, open and honest. If we're not going to force anyone down the path of financial advice, if there's not a fit there. So I want to understand a little bit more about what are they trying to, what's happening. Often there's a catalyst for the conversation. What is a really good outcome? What is success? What are you trying to achieve? And because as every good advisor would know, they would love the client to have goals, clear goals, ideally specific goals. But I know that not many clients have very specific goals. Very, very few do anyway.
When they walk in. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And then I'll just understand if there's any challenges at their end that they're struggling to overcome. And then I'll walk them through what next steps would look like. And that next steps would be another session with myself. We would then do that over Zoom, and we'll have an extension of that conversation. Like, what does a good outcome look like? What's stopping you from getting there? We walk through our philosophies and principles. So these are the things that we hold up to all of our clients and say, this is how we work. This is how any good advisor would work. So this shouldn't be, this isn't, whilst this information is the way in which it's presented is exclusive to Pivot Wealth, the overall message isn't, or the philosophies and principles shouldn't be exclusive to Pivot Wealth. And then I'll just walk them through the practicalities of the advice process, timings, cadences, what happens next. That call, that usually takes, to be honest, it usually takes about an hour. If it's concise, it'll be 45 minutes. And we do charge for that session. We will charge normally around $195 for that session, but that is a full donation that goes to a charity we support called B1G1. So that charity is called Business for Good, and they essentially, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe B1G1, but it lets you essentially embed giving into your business activities, so you can create impact through the work that you do within your business. So providing clean water across countries in Asia, and we also fund a project in Malawi where essentially they're giving business advice, financial business advice to women in Malawi as well. So there's a variety of projects that we would look after where those funds would go to.
And the concept there is that businesses look at donating 1% of their income as a charitable gift to the charity.
Exactly right. So that's an internal goal that we have. We don't. I appreciate I'm talking about it now, but it's not something that we overly talk about. We have just found it's a really good way for us to help meet those targets when clients come on board as well. I'll talk about it if clients ask a little bit more, we'll also make a donation if clients celebrate their big wins. So buy houses, have babies, things like that.
Yep, exactly. Now that also promotes in the client's head that you charge fees for your time, and if they don't want to pay that $195, and they also know it's going to charity, but it starts that relationship off on a charging or fee basis.
Absolutely. And it's also, I've got to be honest, I think, when Ben shared with me, that was the process. I think even in like a traditional sales concept, and I think, like, I suppose agencies do this as well, like charge for charge for the pitch, because you are using a lot of resources and time, and you might not, win the work out the other side, even though they are profiting from that though. So it's a slightly different model. But yeah, we found that the type of clients where it creates a positive sentiment at their end are the type of clients we want to work with. At the end of the day, it's a personal business. I think sometimes clients will come in and like they're the boss of you now, and I'm like, no, that's not how we work. This is a partnership, and we want to create a little bit of an even playing field. So we do find that this sentiment, and I can honestly say I think I've had 2 people, and I've spoken to hundreds of people this year that have had a bit of a negative sentiment about that. I'm like, that's fine. I'm not sure that we're the fit for you. So best of luck.
Perfect. And was this the process when you came through as a client?
No, I met with Ben quite early on. I would say that this process, not like even this whole process, isn't really the actual planning process has always been the same. Ben's been pretty solid with that, but no, this was a COVID thing last year. Ben started this, so we've just kept it going this year. So no, it wasn't not back when it was just Ben and Yang when I joined.
Yep.
I didn't know who was behind the scenes. Beyond that,
didn't know how to work. It's all good. So you've had a quick call with them. You've jumped on a Zoom for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step after that?
Make a decision. From there, really, I hope that I've given you enough information. Sometimes they'll say yes on the spot. Sometimes, often they'll of course want to take some time, think about it. I always offer another call afterwards, and sometimes Ben and I will jump on a call with them afterwards. But I'm really upfront and frank in the fact that no one, like, if you're trying to understand what the outcome is going to be, it would be absolutely reckless for us to kind of, broadly tell you what we think you'll get out of this.
The financial outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yes. To be clear, the financial outcome. If they're like, if I spend X, am I going to get Y? It would be grossly irresponsible for me to, give you an idea as to what that's going to be, because I don't know. And again, I can tie it all back into the conversation that I've just had. You don't know what a good outcome looks like for you. We've just had this discussion. You've explicitly said to me that there's a variety of different, things that you're looking to do, and you're not sure which one's the best way. So it would be reckless for me to go, I think, maybe that way would be the best way, and it's going to mean X.
Yep.
And they get that, which is good.
Yeah, forecasting's an interesting thing, isn't it? When it comes to we nobody knows what the future holds. I remember went to a conference once, and the guy stood up and said, "You don't know what a good financial plan is. The client doesn't know what a good financial plan is. The market determines what was a good financial plan after the fact. But so when it comes to the numbers, nobody actually knows what it's going to be."
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so that then the decision really is around: do you want to go from emotionally unknowing, anxious, all these types of things that we've just covered, to a place of this and this, because we know that's what happens with all of our other clients. And so that's the decision they make, I guess, for the fees you charge.
Exactly right. That's almost the conversation that, would happen, where it's like, you've said that you wanted to feel this way, be confident about this, know that you're in this position. The ball's in your court. We can give you clarity on that. And if all of that's, feasible and what that outcome would look like, the ball's in your court.
Yeah. I noticed one of the things on your website is something like the average Australian saves 4.7% of their income. Our clients save 35.2%. So those are the types of things that you're able to say. I guess that's more of a marketing.
That, like, some of the specifics, no, we can absolutely say that. And I actually had that conversation with again, a client who's just finished her plan, her and her husband have finished their plan and implemented. And she was like, oh my gosh, we've saved so much money since we last spoke. We've accelerated our plans. We've gone and done this. And I'm like, oh, it's not that our work here is done, but like, the foundational work, tick, like that's at the very least, like that's, which is amazing. Like those are the stories that we obviously love to hear. But we're really big on the foundational aspect as well of which I think is, I'm not sure. Do you know what? I actually have no idea. I'm not sure if this is overlooked by other advice firms, but we're huge on your banking and saving structure, not having to think about it, creating a lifestyle baseline, because we are fortunate enough to work with, broadly speaking, a younger client base. We're like, yeah, cool. Let's maintain, like, yep, you want to keep your holidays in there, no problem. You want to keep your dinners out, that's all good. We're not here to talk about major sacrificing. Maybe we are, but broadly speaking, we're not trying to like put you on a budget. What I want to understand is, what's your lifestyle baseline? Let's map that out. How can we create some rigid savings around that where you're not thinking about it? And then the key thing here is coming up with a strategy, and that saving surplus is key to continually driving the strategy and continually driving, as you would know, driving those
absolutely.
Outcomes.
I love the words you use, lifestyle baseline. I like things like spending plans rather than savings, like the whole idea of understanding what, focus on the spending part, just spend that amount.
Totally.
Rather than budgeting.
I think that's what some people think. They're going to get in and they're going to be like, oh, you can't go to America this year. Like, no, go to the US, have your holiday. Yep. Let's just plan around that.
Yep. Perfect. Now, obviously, they make a decision, the call to action, the decision making. Then what happens if somebody decides, then has to make a decision? I guess the decision should be yes or no, not just no decision.
Yeah, so they'll make a clear decision if they are or aren't going to move forward. And then I do a really quick intro Zoom call. The key with their advisor and the advisor's associate as well. And the intent of that call, and I'm really upfront in saying our process is really hands-on, high touch. You're going to be spending a lot of time either in a room or over Zoom with these individuals. It's just important that you meet. And, let's just start building rapport. And then, of course, we'll get all of the admin out of the way. Let's get the formal meetings in. Let's get you across the admin, give you some deadlines, and but be confident that once you've done the little bit of homework that we need you to do, you don't have to think too much after that. Just turn up to the meetings and give us the yes, no, maybe, whys, and we can start delivering for you.
So with those meetings, do you don't book in the next meeting? You're booking in
the whole cadence.
Several meetings?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
approximately how many meetings is that?
3 meetings. We have, the best way I would describe them would be the first meeting would just be what we call the clarify meeting. It's like a workshop. Let's get together. Let's brainstorm. What is a good outcome? You've got some ideas. We know everything that's going on at your end. So let's share those. Let's share our ideas with you. Then the meeting following that is the findings of the workshop. So this is what we chatted about, and we've laid it out into, let's say, 4 options. Here's option 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's, the numbers around what those workshop plans, the numbers are clear then on those workshop plans. And okay, I love option 2, but there's an element of option 3 that I think we could really push ourselves. Let's workshop that. Great. Let's go through the details, and then by the time they get to the end of that meeting, then they've got a pretty rough idea as to what their plans. They've got a pretty clear idea as to what their plan's going to be, and then after that, let's put it all together. We will go away, put it all together in an SOA, and present that to them.
Wonderful. I love the way you call them workshops, not just meetings.
They're kind of, because they're really hands-on. They're really, let's have a workshop. Let's talk about what, and that kind of language, I think, is a little bit more relatable to, well, certainly our clients, but when you're largely speaking, talking to, a bunch of professionals, everyone's been forced into a workshop at some point or another. Some type of design thinking, something.
It also puts everybody in the same seat, I guess. Like, everyone's got work to do. It's not just about, I'm here to listen and sit and do nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly right. We want you to to come to the table with your ideas. Let's workshop those. We want to, you've got, and more often than not, they've got some pretty clear ideas. They've got some goals around what they want to do. So let's talk about that. But and that process really is removing them a little bit away from, there's the tactical. Like, right, buying a property, investing, blah, blah, blah. What we're trying to workshop with them as well in that session is to move beyond the tactics, and let's focus in on the goals. What is that long term? What does that look like for you guys? Let's understand what maintaining that lifestyle baseline looks like for you or both of you, or all of you. But the key thing that we're trying to drive out of that is the bigger picture.
Yep.
The tactics are the tactics, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, fantastic. So we've got the decision making. We've got a quick Zoom call with you, essentially just getting the yes or no, and then the quick introduction and booking into the 3 more meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of know what discovery meetings, strategy meetings, and advice meetings are. So we'll skip over that, but then tell us what happens after that. Obviously, things go in place, and you mentioned that you jump into the relationship part again. Talk us through that.
Yeah, we wait until they've completely executed and implemented on their initial plan. And all clients that sign up with us now are working with us in a long-term, at the very least, a 12-month relationship. And then I will, once they've implemented their plan, I'll catch up with them out the other side and make sure that they know how to. We just don't want them to be in a position where they're coming to us after the fact, or not flagging stuff with us earlier, or not taking action. And you have those conversations with people. They're like, oh, I transferred, my money here, and I don't really know what happens next. And I'm like, that's okay. Let's action that for you. And then also having a discussion with them about how they can maximize their relationship. And of course, getting some feedback on the process and how they're finding working with us as well. I think that's important for any business, anyone in business, right? Is to just get that feedback. I want to hear it. I want to hear everything.
Yeah. When you say maximizing the relationship, what sort of things are you talking about? Just like for them to be dipping into their podcast, or reading the newsletter, or touching base when this happens, or what's the idea? Celebrating the wins, or all those sorts of things.
It's things like, and I can talk to this firsthand. Once we've, like, let's say, set up a brand new banking and savings structure, there's a bit of teething that happens at their end, and it's lean on us and let us just get in there and we can have a quick discussion. It doesn't necessarily have to be the advisor. It could be someone in our operations team. It could be an associate. And let's just have a conversation and quickly run you through it again. And, I had a conversation with someone the other week who was like, oh, I'm overspending. Like, I know I've put that. I was like, that's okay. Like, you've got to be teething with this. Let's arrange a call with one of the associates. We'll show you where to update it, and we'll show you how to quickly make those changes. We don't want you to feel like you're stretching yourself. That's the complete opposite of what the intent of this the intent of the planning process was. So it's allowing them to lean on us, to know that the initial planning process isn't over. Lean back on us for everything from teething issues to your banking savings, to if things are going to change, or if you we were planning for kids and suddenly we're pregnant. Let's have that chat. Okay, that's cool. Let's have a session about that, and let's figure out what next steps would look like, so they know that they are confident that we're a trusted resource in their corner, and we want to be having conversations before the fact, not after the fact as well, and making sure that they feel empowered and confident to reach out to us, and they know that we're there and we're on their side.
Yep. So when life does change, which it will, there's certainly somebody that they've had a good relationship with, that they can easily pick up the phone or jump on because I've spoken to you a lot.
Yeah, exactly right.
Fantastic. So obviously this then is a fantastic time for you to ask for referrals or talk about how other people like you can work with. Is that part of your process?
Exactly right. Yes, that was a key one I forgot about. But yes, I will just say if there's anyone else that you thought would benefit from this process, then I'm happy to offer up, and I'll offer up either a couple of free breakthrough sessions, those Zoom calls, a couple of those for free, or at the very least at a discount, like half the price. Which, keep in mind, it obviously is still a donation to charity. So I'll offer that at a discounted rate if they know anyone that would take advantage of that would see the benefits of working with Pivot Wealth.
Yeah, and not everybody wants to just introduce their friends in, but obviously after they've been through a good experience, that's a pretty good time to have that conversation. What would you say the amount of people that then think about, oh, no, what about such and such we could introduce, like, are they then, just as you were a super referrer when you were a client, do you find that a lot of people dive onto that opportunity?
I think you've got those people who just naturally are. I don't know if you've ever read I actually can't remember exactly which book it is, but it's a Malcolm Gladwell book, and there are like people that they you've got your connectors and you've got your mavens. Yeah. I think it's just, if you happen to go through, and I would describe myself as a connector, you happen to bring someone who's a connector through the process. I think that they're individuals who are most likely to just be a bit more proactive. And, we've got someone at the moment who I think is just completely trumping me as far as being a super referrer. She's gone through the process with her and her partner, and she's just spread us like wildfire to her network. I don't know if she's blasted some email out to everyone, but we've had a lot of people come through from just one person. So I think that there's naturally those people who are connectors who would do that, and then outside of that, then it's more of, I think, if you hit an age where you're at a party and suddenly finances form part of the discussion, then if we've got the clients that are there, then they'll share our details.
Yeah, fantastic. And there's easy options, and as we mentioned, because of the content production, you can just check out the content. It's an easier referral. Exactly right. Yeah. There's personalities, then there's great results that can be both referrers. I think by the sound of it, you found your next BDM too, by the way, just saying. If she's a super
exactly
referrer,
right.
She's coming in as the next relationship person.
Exactly right.
You mentioned before that's the benefit of putting in processes in place, as it becomes scalable. So yeah, wonderful. What about Google reviews and those sorts of? Do you do those?
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do. And I think we could be a little bit better at it. And I think that the probably not being as good at it is just a flat out a result of being incredibly busy. It's Ben's probably going to listen to this at some point. It's on the list. Honestly, it's on the list.
Just so Ben listens to all these episodes, I'm pretty sure.
I'm panicking.
That sounds right. So what are the plans you mentioned before, putting things on the list? What are the sort of things that you plan on working on? Obviously, everything's a work in progress, and what are the things that are on the short and long-term list?
Well, we've had, I'm not sure if you've stumbled across it. We were in the AFR, but we've won the contract to take care of the advice for the NRL players and a relationship that we struck with the RLPA. So we went through it was a tender process. I think there was around 20. There was a lot. There was like maybe at least 18 firms that went through. So we were successful in winning that contract. So a large part of that is, my role is, all of our other channels for business development. So certainly building better relationships with the NRL clubs and working closely with them. And again, it's in the same way in which we deliver our content. Like the RLPA is taking care of it. It's just making sure that the players are aware that we're a resource. They're fortunate enough to have, to be well resourced through their various clubs and through the RLPA. Know that we're a resource to tap into. So there'll be a bit of work in the new year as far as building those relationships to drive more players to just have discussions with us and make sure that they're on the front foot. They, you know, a lot of those players are obviously in really fortunate situations. Not all of them are, so it's maximising what's available to them as well. So that's a lot of work that we'll have coming up in the new year as well.
Yeah, is that just one-on-one, or are you going to be doing like webinars and seminars and those
both?
Talking to teams at a time?
Exactly right. So a bit of both. Talking to the teams, and it's obviously been it hasn't been that tricky. It's, you know, those types of things when it comes to any relationship. I think sometimes people do lean on the it'd be nice to just meet face to face. COVID's obviously been a bit of a killer when it comes to that. But so they've been still really responsive with doing a lot of stuff online with us. But it'll be good. It will be. I think I personally think it will be good once we can start meeting people face to face and certainly building rapport. But no, it's certainly about one broad content that they're interested in. And then one-on-ones as well.
Yep. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Siobhan, for coming on and telling us about your BDM-style process, which is very different in a lot of for how a lot of financial advisors do it. But obviously, it's working very well for you. You're busier than ever and got a lot on. If somebody wanted to continue this conversation with you, what would be the best way for them to maybe try and reach out and make contact?
Absolutely. They can reach out to me via LinkedIn and also just jump onto our website and just send through an inquiry at the bottom of the page there, and I will get that.
Yes, jump on the website, send an inquiry, end up in the sales funnel, understand, check out the newsletter. But Siobhan is spelt the traditional Irish way.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Siobhan.
Yep, that's right.
And we look forward to, I hope you reach out in contact, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey today.
No worries. Thank you for having me.